Hi, it's Phil Harvey here at the Light Reading booth studio at the Fiber Connect conference in Nashville. And joining me is Debbie Kish from the Fiber Broadband Association. And I knew her from Gartner when she was an analyst back in the day. Hi, Debbie.
Hi. Hi, Phil. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
It's been a while.
And thanks for agreeing to talk to us today. And congrats on a successful conference. It's obviously been busy and active the entire time we've been here, so that's been great. You are, so I know you as, from your work on the research side of things, but you have a much bigger role inside of FBA. You're Vice President of Research and Workforce Development. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of what that role entails?
Yeah, so I do come from a Gartner background. I spent 21 years as an analyst. I initially was covering broadband, which is kind of interesting, and then I moved on to other things that you know, like switching and signaling, and then security. And then I left Gartner after 21 years, and here I am back in broadband. So it's been kind of full circle, I guess, for me. So the research side is we've developed a new research program where we're building things like community profiles, where fiber makes a difference once deployed in a community. We have 3 initial profiles that we're doing right now, and we're working on building out several others. Some other initiatives that we're doing are a survey on, we did a compensation survey for fiber optic technician and outside plant engineers, so that our members can, benefit from understanding kind of where they sit in the pay scale. Okay. And whether or not they have to make adjustments in how they're compensating their employees.
That's a great thing, given how competitive things are, especially, post-lockdown, people changing jobs like crazy. It really, I guess, helps them to sort of make sure they haven't lost sight of where they are in the flow of things.
Exactly.
I'm curious about the community profiles, though. What all does a community profile include, and then what are your members going to be doing with that information? How does it help them?
So as you know, the Fiber Broadband Association is largely an advocacy for all fiber networks to the home. And this body of research was actually predicated on a study that was done by Professor Lobo for Chattanooga, Tennessee, where they built an infrastructure of fiber to the home, and it then served as a basis for a smart grid. It brought in 9,612 jobs, somewhere in that neighborhood, but it built community, it brought in industry, and it improved the economic value of Chattanooga. So what we did was and that was largely an academic paper, so what we did was we sort of carved out, what we think are the important pieces in terms of, how the economic value, in these other communities, where, we put a limit on it of at least 5 years, because we figured it takes at least 5 years, because Chattanooga was 10 years, they had already built it out for 10 years. So we figured that about 5 years you would start seeing, some revenue generation, some home value improvement, things of that nature, and job creation. So these are spread out through the United States, and the members can use these as tools to help build community will and show why fiber broadband, is of value in your community. So it's to extend the reach of the advocacy for all fiber networks.
Interesting. A home value thing, I didn't even think about that, but that's definitely a real actionable, result of having fiber in a community. Are there any other interesting kind of, knock-on effects from fiber broadband that we might not think of firsthand? Or I wonder if there were any surprises in that, in the community profiles that you found.
So actually one that was kind of interesting, and I actually have example of the report at my station over at our fiber broadband booth.
Okay.
The interesting thing is that in Oregon, it was a Douglas Fastnet in Oregon, and that fiber broadband network, there were wildfires that happened throughout this community in Oregon, or this county,
Right.
And the funny thing was, not funny, I shouldn't say fires are never funny, but
Right. Interesting.
because of the fiber network, they were able to get those critical resources to where they needed to be.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was kind of an interesting aha for me that I wasn't expecting, because I always look at, the dollars and not,
Right.
the critical connection to emergency services and things like that.
No, I'm glad you guys are looking at it in a little bit more of a holistic sort of way, because I think that's important for people to really understand, not just, what benefit it has in a very specific area or a very narrow area, but also just how it kind of lifts up the whole community, in general,
Exactly.
public safety, education, all those components. Another piece of the work the FBA is working on is something to do with design engineering software. I think our audience is particularly interested in like what service providers do with that software and what your study is sort of looking into.
Yeah, so we're just finishing up the development of the actual survey itself. But the interesting thing is that this is an area, and it's absolutely 100% primary research.
Mm-hmm.
It's an area that we've never looked at in the past. And what we're doing is we're trying to understand who uses design engineering software, what do they use it for, do they use GIS, are they using it for purely design, because a lot of these tools have a lot of different capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to find out, what the end users or what the service providers and contractors and folks like that are actually using them for. Are they using them to their fullest advantage?
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and some of them I'll wait on the results, but I'm sure there's a mix of really interesting sort of combinations of legacy and new stuff kind of living in under the same roof. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
The last thing is that I wanted to ask you about as far as the FBA is concerned is the training program, Optical Telecom Installer Certification, OpTIC. Remind us what that is, and then tell us like how's it going and what the next steps are in that program.
That's been like one of the more exciting things. I mean, you do research for 21 years and then you move on to something a little bit different. So this has been really interesting for me. Mm-hmm. So we developed a fiber optic technician program called OpTIC, which is an acronym for Optical Telecom Installer Certification. And we're working with schools and service providers across the United States to bring this education or this certification to their area. Our member base, our service provider member base some years ago had indicated that there's been a shortage. They have to turn down jobs, or they have to turn down install jobs, or they're not meeting their deadlines. They're not meeting their goals, to reach fiber to the home, because they don't have skilled laborers to do the job. So we decided that it's in our best interest to fill that gap and get people at a place where, what I like to call, I like to say that it's an advanced entry-level fiber optic technician.
Okay.
So we're covering the education piece is Y-fiber, theory, geometry, and then we move on to safety. Safety, there's a big focus on safety. And then we go into things like splicing, a lot of the hands-on tasks, splicing, testing, troubleshooting, outside plant installation, and at the home installation.
Okay.
So it's very much a soup to nuts fiber optic technician course. So far we have completed the pilot. We did a pilot at Wilson Community College in partnership with Greenlight. Greenlight is the municipality that has fiber to the home. Okay. And we today, or not today, but this week at Fiber Connect, we're holding our very first Train the Trainer. And we had a really great outcome. We've had really positive feedback about what everybody's getting out of it. And, even I've had some lessons learned in terms of, we have a large population of people who are aging out. We have a lot of people who have been in this industry for 40 plus years. I've been in fiber, or not fiber, but I've been in telecom for 25 years. Mm-hmm. So, the funny thing is there's a lot of people on the path to retirement. I think they'd make great instructors, which is good. And now we need to backfill and keep that pipeline going. So that's what the course is actually designed to do.
Excellent. I can't wait to age out of media, just as an aside. How do people get into the program, or where do people go to start the training as far as this goes?
Yeah, so we're talking to at least, we have connections in at least 26 states.
Okay.
And I've talked to, if you look on our site, there's a map of the United States and it's got purple shaded areas. Those are the states where we've actually talked to people.
Okay.
And that's anything from broadband offices to community colleges to employers to other veterans programs and other government initiatives in terms of jobs. So if anybody is interested in knowing more about it, you can absolutely contact me.
Okay.
And I can send you some materials and information, and of course go to our webpage. We have a webpage that has a lot of the information.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put a link of some sort in the show notes so that people can have an easy path to get there. And well, again, congrats on the conference in general. It's been incredibly buzzy, and thanks so much for spending the time with us.
Thank you. So good.